One final race. One last chance to conquer the last great Coliseum.
Going to the night race at Bristol was one of my favorite races to go to as a kid. I'm glad I've got a trophy from that racetrack.
But as Junior takes his final bow at Bristol Motor Speedway, a new crop of young gladiators are fighting to steal part of the spotlight.
But I'm going to go do my thing, and if I have an opportunity to pass a guy and do it the right way, then I'm going to try my best to do it.
Winning here is special because
Bristol, baby.
It's a beautiful night in Bristol for Food City Family Race Night. Yes, here coming on the final weekend of Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s career at BMS. Welcome to Bristol, baby, everyone. I'm P.J. Johnson, along with Heather Williams and Casey Getz. It's hard to believe, Casey, that this is the last weekend that we'll ever see Junior on the high banks.
I know the day after the Food City 500 back in April, Junior made the announcement this was going to be it for him. With his concussion issues, this wasn't a huge surprise. Maybe the timing left some people scratching their heads, but look at it this way, guys. If he would have pulled a Carl Edwards and just walked away week before the season, no track would be able to say goodbye to him.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And Bristol is his favorite track. He says over and over again, he is only one of two guys to ever sweep the weekend. But believe it or not, that is not why Bristol is Junior's favorite track.
Going to the night race at Bristol was one of my favorite races to go to as a kid. And just a great little, tiny little racetrack. And as a, 12, 14, 15-year-old kid, you could see the whole place before the end of the weekend. And me and my buddies were all over it. And we had a blast every time we went there. I have a lot of fond memories there. I'm glad I've got a trophy from that racetrack.
He is the face of NASCAR, no doubt about it. He's the most popular driver in the sport, a two-time Busch champion. He won 26 races in his Cup career. But before we celebrate Junior's last ride, let's talk about his first ride. Now, it's hard to imagine now with his success, but there was a time when Dale Earnhardt Jr. wasn't regarded as a really good race car driver. In fact, he struggled. His sister Kelly was deemed to be a better racing prospect. So, what was the turning point for Dale Earnhardt Jr.? Well, for that answer, we're going to turn back the clock all the way to 1997 when his father made a phone call to Bristol legend Ed Whitaker. And the rest, as they say, is history.
It's Bristol, baby!
Before he uttered those famous words, before he sipped a Mountain Dew,
People know me as Dale Earnhardt Jr. race car driver.
before Nationwide was on his side, Dale Earnhardt Jr. was a kid who just wanted to race. So his father sent him here to this old race shop in Bristol, Virginia. It was owned by Ed Whitaker, an old school racer, and Dale Earnhardt knew he would bring out the best in Junior. So Casey, who takes his place?
Well, maybe the good place to look would be the son of Bill Elliott, who was NASCAR's most popular driver before Dale Earnhardt Jr. took over, and he's also the teammate of Dale Jr., so I say Chase Elliott is a pretty good place to look. With Dale Earnhardt Jr. heading towards the checkered flag of his career, a new era of drivers will be challenged with carrying the sport. One of those is 21-year-old Chase Elliott, who will be second on the seniority list, believe it or not, at Hendrick Motorsports next year, with the retirement of Earnhardt and Rick Hendrick releasing Casey Kane. The youth movement is in full swing at Team Hendrick, but age is just a number when it comes to driving a race car.
When you're in that spot, you are a rookie in Cup, but man, we've been racing for a long time. It's not our first go around, so it's not like our first race ever, our first season ever. When you get to the level of the Cup Series, I mean, you've been racing long enough where you are either know how to do it at that point or you don't.
In his second full season in the Cup Series, Elliott is still looking for his first win, but he has had plenty of success at Bristol. In 3 career races, Elliott has finished 4th, 7th, and 15th at the world's fastest half mile, often displaying something you don't associate with many 21-year-olds.
Patience, I think, is pretty important. Just getting to the end of that race is key, and it can be it can be trying on the patience meter throughout the night. It's a frustrating track to race at.
Patience is also something Elliott must display in his pursuit of a spot in the NASCAR playoffs. 13 drivers have locked in their spots by winning a race, so that leaves 3 spots left. And with 3 races left, Elliott currently has the most points of any driver without a win, but he has no margin for error.
Results are results, and we unfortunately don't have that victory to go with along with a lot of guys that do. And if we could get one, that'd be great. I feel like we jump up to where we deserve to be and where we need to be.
Elliott isn't going to be picky about which track win number 1 comes at, but if it were the night race at Bristol, it would mean a little more because some races just mean more than others.
Everybody wants what they can't have. We all want Chick-fil-A on Sundays, right? So, you know, we love things that you can only do one time a year ever so often. I think that's why it makes it special.
And with the success that Elliott has had at Bristol Motor Speedway in his limited time, don't be surprised if the 24 car is a major factor in this race.
Well, he's going to have a tough act to follow. First his dad and now Dale Jr.
Yeah.
But maybe you're right. Maybe he will be the most popular driver. There's another guy that calls Bristol home, and boy, he loves the high banks, doesn't he, Heather?
Yeah, he is a car chief, and coming up next, we will talk to him about how he got his start in NASCAR and why BMS means so much to him. Stay with us.
You can hear the fans yelling and screaming. From inside the car, you can hear the fans yelling. It's not under green, but under caution, you can hear them. And that's really neat to be able to see that. And you see the flash bulbs going off on their cameras and all that. So I love that atmosphere.
There's just something about your hometown. And when you work in NASCAR and Bristol is your hometown, it makes visiting this already spectacular track even more special. Just ask Danica Patrick's car chief, Tony Cardamone. These days, Tony Cardamone has a front row seat at every NASCAR race. But none of this would have been a reality if not for the fact he saw a posting from Abingdon-based Morgan McClure Motorsports some 17 years ago.
I was in the Coast Guard and I came home for leave, and there was a note on the gym thing that said they were looking for a jackman. They would train them, no experience necessary to fit the mold. So I said, well, I'll give it a shot.
Cardamone turned that opportunity into a 16-year career as a jackman and gasman, working for McClure, Michael Waltrip Racing, and eventually Stuart Haas Racing, where he won a championship as a member of Kevin Harvick's team in 2014. This season, he makes the move from the pit crew to atop the pit box.
I got my experience, I feel like the right way, doing a little bit of everything.
As the car chief for Danica Patrick's number 10.
The car chief kind of controls the garage. I work for the crew chief. Kind of takes the load off of him while he's making the car faster. We're making sure everything happens in the garage, the guys, the car side of stuff.
And Bristol has always been a pretty good track for him and Stuart Haas Racing.
I love Bristol, just the atmosphere of that track. Of course, everybody's family's there, and it's just a really cool place.
And even though the results haven't shown it, Bristol's actually been a pretty good track for Danica, so they're hoping maybe she could get a top 10 or a top 5 and build a little momentum.
It's always nice to see the hometown guys do well.
Oh, for sure, and he's very excited about returning to Bristol.
Speaking of guys doing well, Eric Jones, man, is this guy hot or what? Now, he's going to have a new Cup Series ride in 2018. He's going to move back to Joe Gibbs Racing. Samantha Zarek is with the two-time Bristol Xfinity Series winner.
I'm here with Monster Energy Cup driver Eric Jones. Eric, you've had 8 top 10s, 2 top 5s, and finishing third twice, once last week at your home track in Michigan. Talk a little bit about how you've been running this season. Eric Jones, thanks so much for talking with us. PJ, I'm going to go ahead and send it back over to you.
Hi, Samantha, thank you very much. Now, during the spring race, we all saw some major flooding around BMS, but there was one driver who saw that flooding and actually did something about it because he just happened to have a nice 4-wheel drive. We're going to catch up with him and ask him why he came to the rescue. That's still ahead. It's Bristol, baby.
Welcome back to It's Bristol, baby. And now it is time to talk about a driver who really went the extra mile to help others in need.
Oh, no kidding about this, Casey. I mean, I've been working at this job a long time. I've been watching races at Bristol since the early 80s. And, of course, we're used to rain. But it's one thing to rain, Heather. It's another thing to flood.
Yeah, and what happened in the spring race was wild. At least one NASCAR driver thought so, too. So what started as a normal drive to dinner turned into the ultimate act of kindness.
I do applaud NASCAR making an early call. They called this race 2 hours before it was even supposed to start.
When the spring race at Bristol was postponed by rains, Chris Busher and his family headed into town to get a bite to eat.
When we left, you know, it had been raining so hard there for so long. It was, we kind of cruised around the campground on the way out, just to kind of get an idea of what everything looked like.
What he saw on his drive back to the track?
Here at Earhart Campground, the rain is really causing this water level here to rise incredibly high.
Compelled him to take action.
It was crazy how high the water had gotten and how quickly. And, you know, we were riding around, and it was, at first you're just in shock.
So Busher got in his truck and started rescuing campers, documenting the whole thing on Instagram.
Where a lot of people had their tents set up earlier and noticed that a lot of them were underwater, a lot of campers that were not accessible, a lot of trailers that people were trying to get to and hook up, and, you know, just realized that, man, those people were kind of struggling.
So why did this driver from NASCAR's top tier go to all these lengths to help strangers?
I know if I was in the situation that I would appreciate somebody coming by and giving me a hand, and we, you know, we had a four-wheel drive truck and figured why not go down there and try and help.
It has been a tough season for Eric Almirola, the driver of the 43 car for Richard Petty Motorsports. He got in the wreck back in May at Kansas, missed 2 months, but he's back behind the wheel, and he has had some success here at Bristol Motor Speedway. Mike Lucas is standing by with the driver of the 43 car.
Hey guys, I'm here with Eric Almirola, the driver of the number 43 Ford, as he gets ready to take on the world's fastest half mile. Good luck this weekend. Appreciate it.
PJ, it's certainly good to see Almirola out. That was a very tough wreck he had there at Kansas. Definitely the scariest so far this season.
Yeah, it's the scariest one we've seen. It is good to have him back in the saddle. I wonder if he's had to deal with the NASCAR police at all, Casey. Yeah, we're talking about those guys that catch you when you're speeding on pit row and stuff like that. Well, how do they do all that? Heather Williams goes behind the scenes when It's Bristol Baby continues.
Bristol, for some reason, if you find it, you've got it for a while. And then if you don't, man, it's tough to break back through.
You see it all the time. You're watching TV, you're watching your favorite driver, and suddenly he goes from leading the race to being penalized for speeding on pit row. How in the world does that happen? Well, Heather had that same question, so she went looking for answers.
Yeah, and I got NASCAR to give us a behind-the-scenes look at their penalty trailer.
So this is the pit road officiating trailer, and from here is where we officiate the race. We begin the week on a Wednesday normally by putting out 46 high-definition cameras up onto various locations across the speedway roof. Each camera looks at 2 pit boxes, and they overlap to give us a cross-triangulation. It also gives us redundancy in the system, so if one camera fails, we still have a secondary view of every single pit box, and this is how the officials will see everything. So the system dings to alert us that we've been assigned a pit stop, and it gives us the information that we need. We know that we're looking at vehicle number 13 stopping in pit box 41. The system's already flagged automatically that there's a vehicle infraction, that he's driven through a forbidden box on exit. So he's driven through more than 3 pit boxes on exit. Here, this is one of the greatest examples of what the teams do to try and get around the system. Here we're looking at the 5 car, and we've been flagged as crew over the wall too soon, potentially. The teams are now, they're dressing in black, they're wearing black sneakers, they put a black banner on the wall, and conveniently the Jack crew member has jumped on top of a shadow, and he thinks he can trick the motion tracking side of things. We know the exact moment, frame by frame, that his foot touches the ground. And we know that when his toe touches the ground, the car has to have crossed the one-away line. If we take a look at the bottom view, we'll then see that the 5 car has still not crossed the one-away line, so he cannot touch the ground. Therefore, in this instance, crew are over the wall too soon.
So now you know everything about the NASCAR police, you know everything about the race, so you can make your pick who you think's going to win. And now it's our turn to do the same. So my kiss of death goes to Kyle Busch. Last night he reminded us what a great driver he is. He made it clear he's going for the triple. My bet is he would settle for a win on Saturday night.
I'm going with Joey Logano.
And I am going with Clint Boyer. He needs a win. I think he's going to get it. Also, Mike Lucas picks Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Samantha Zarek picks Kyle Larson.
We shall see how smart those folks are. Special thanks to the train station for letting us set up here. You've been watching It's Bristol, Baby. For Heather and Casey, I'm PJ Johnson. Good night, everybody.